Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome you out to the meeting of the Murray City Municipal Council this evening for August 1st, 2017. We'll call this meeting to order. All council members are in attendance this evening, and the mayor is here as well. Welcome all of you who are here in attendance. Also, we wish to welcome those of you who are watching on murraycitylive.com. And we would ask as we begin, if you have your electronic devices on silent, we would really appreciate that. We'll begin our agenda with a Pledge of Allegiance, and Vast Chief Burnett, if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. We'll hear more from you in a few minutes. Next item on the agenda is 5.2, approval of minutes. We have minutes of the council meeting for July 11th, 2017, as well as July 18th. Are there any additions or corrections?
No. Do you want to take them together?
I'll take them together, sure.
Okay.
Let me just note a name misspelling on Amy Winter Newton in one spot. If you just fix that.
All right. I'll make a motion with the change that Blair mentioned, that we approve the minutes for July 18th and July 11th, 2017.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Turner and a second by Mr. Brass. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, minutes are approved. Okay, item 5.3 on the agenda is a special recognition. It's always great to see so many of our police officers here, and we welcome you for our swearing in of a new Murray City Police Lieutenant Michael Obrey, Sergeant Jason Coons, and Code Enforcement Officer Christina Klein. Jennifer and Chief Burnett.
Thank you. I say this probably every time we do this, that this is if not one of my favorite things to get to do, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First and foremost is through the process, and when there's time for a promotion. I mean, these are big deals amongst the officers, and the chance to advance and take on more responsibility. And it gives me and those of us involved a chance to see, really, this is my time to brag, what a great bunch of people we have working for us. It could be, which also makes it hard because there's one position open and there's 6 or 8 people on the list that we have to choose from, which is great because you could throw a dart at the board and any one of them could step up and do the job, but it's gratifying to be able to have somebody advance, and it's even equally hard, if not maybe harder, part of the job is to tell the others that it's not their time this time around. But we're excited today for these promotions. We haven't had a lieutenant promotion, and I think it's been 7-8 years. So for our sergeants to be able to compete and to have a chance to move up, this is a time they've been waiting for a long time. So I'd like to have Mike Obrey come up, and Jason Coons and Christina Klein. Mike's been with us for 22 years. I say that because I was a fairly new, if not brand new, patrol sergeant when he was a brand new officer working on my shift with me, and it was because I got promoted really, really young. So and the good thing about that is all of the lieutenants that we have now, I can say the same thing about. I got to supervise them as they hired on and as they moved up, and so it's these are good quality people, as are all the others that have competed. Jason's been with us 10 or almost, no, 8 years. Currently working in detectives. They've both spent a lot of time in different aspects of the department and bring a lot of experience and professionalism to it. We're excited for Christina. We finally were able to fill our code enforcement position. Not that we have a lot of issues in Murray, considering where we brought her from. We were able to get her from South Salt Lake. So she brings a lot of experience, and whatever problems we have, I think we do pretty good compared to where she came from, and we're excited to have her with us too. So with that, we'd like to swear him in. Do you want to just do one at a time? Okay, we'll start with Mike. Yeah.
I state your name.
I, Mike Cooper,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support, obey, and defend
to support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and perform the duties of my office
and perform the duties of my office
as a Murray City Police Lieutenant
as a Murray City Police Lieutenant with fidelity.
We'll do the swearing in and then I'll do it. Yeah.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jason Coombs,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support, obey, and defend
to support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and perform the duties of my office
and perform the duties of my office
as a Murray City Police Sergeant
as a Murray City Police Sergeant
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
All right, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Christina Klein,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to support, obey, and defend
to support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and perform the duties of my office
as a Murray City Code Enforcement Officer
as a Murray City Code Enforcement Officer with fidelity.
Just want to have whoever, which one do you want?
The higher paying one.
That would get me on the news.
Oh, you don't
would
pin
just-
it? Just, yeah, okay,
since-
because I have no pin.
She doesn't have a place on her shirt, so we'll just give her a badge. Maybe before you sit down, we'll have each of you take just a moment, if you have family and friends you want to introduce. And again, thank you all for coming and being part of this occasion. It's kind of exciting for us all.
I have my wife with me, and my parents, my sister, and my young nephew, who's a blessing to our family, and my son, Tyler, is with us. So I'm thankful for their support and their help. Thank you for being here.
wife Tammy's here, and my 3 kids, Madeline, Jason Jr., and Hannah. My brother Matt, his wife Amanda, and their kids Boston and Memphis. My sister Jill, and then both my parents Ed and Sylvia are here. And I just appreciate their support in my career.
I'm just rolling solo with my new PD family.
Well, thank you, and congratulations on your promotions. And Christina, welcome to your Murray PD family. I'm always impressed by the support from the police officers and the family that are here. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being such an integral part of our city, of our police department, and we really appreciate you, and congratulations.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate him too. I've been around for 14 of Mike's 22 years, so it's been a long time. Congratulations to you and Jason, and I'm going to embarrass him one more time. I want to thank the chief for allowing Sergeant Barlow to come to our neighborhood party last night. He was a great sport. They hung a sign around his neck that said "Our police officer," I think. But it's that kind of presence. It is a great department. And to have an officer take a few minutes to stop by you would not believe the impact it has on the neighbors to get to know our department. Even if they bend your ear on things that are troubling them, it goes such a long way. And then to see the kids react. I mean, one of my neighbors has 2 little ones, and they were right there. They saw him get out of the car, and it's like they wouldn't go really close, but they wanted to come up and say hi. So thank you.
I'd just like to say congratulations and also welcome to Christina. It'll be great to have you.
Yep, welcome. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We will go ahead and move on. Those of you who came for that part, you are more than welcome to stay. However, don't feel obligated. And we'll pause for just a moment. Thanks to all you officers out there in the hall for being here. Okay, we'll move on now to citizen comments. This is the part of our meeting where citizens may speak to any topic for up to 3 minutes. We do, however, have 3 public hearings scheduled this evening. If you're here to speak for one of the public hearings, we ask you to wait until that public hearing for you to speak on that subject. Also keep in mind that any thing that's not on the agenda, there can be no formal action taken tonight, but we are happy to hear your comments. So is there anyone who would like to speak to the council this evening?
Hello, my name's Janice Bell. I'm at 4912 Wasatch Street. You know, I had the opportunity to be just at the previous meeting of the Committee of the Whole, and I was really struck by the things that our mayor said to the group at the meeting. Actually, it was speaking to the City Council. He talked about the downtown redevelopment plan that has been going on with drawings and all for the last 2 to 2.5 years, and one of the portions that was being discussed at the committee was something that could be a potential iconic landmark statement. And that can make a really big impact on our city, iconic landmark statements. And the question he asked is, where is Murray going? He said, we have an incredibly unique city that does its own thing in its own way. And it's important that we maintain our character. We have a beautiful little oasis here that still, hopefully, continues to maintain the small town feel. He said, we need to find out what our character is. I thought, well, we should know what that is, but it is true that we need to constantly review what is our city's character. What is the character and charm that we want to continue to have? And now that we have mayoral election going on. And many have expressed that the downtown is a big focus on their campaign. It really is something that's going to make a difference for our city, is how you as a city council and those that work with you go forward in what you're going to do for our downtown. So we know that back in 2011, the MCCD was adopted. And we now are dealing with the third development that has happened since MCCD has gone into place. The first two developments, I think most people, those that I'm aware of and have talked to, most will agree that there are some real issues with how those first two developments happened. 30 seconds, dang it. Okay, so we have the one that was the Center Court Apartments that really is very dense for such a small street. So much demanded of that little bit of infrastructure that we have in those very old and first residential streets of the whole city. And then we have the Home 2 Suites that really has a look that is not complementary to what we want our downtown to look like. So now I strongly encourage you city council members to encourage that we be given a chance to look at options which we've really worked on, many citizens have, in being able to look at options of how we can continue to keep our iconic landmarks alive and not demolished. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council this evening? Yes, Mr. Greenhall.
My name is Beryl Greenbaum. I live at 771 East Labrum Avenue, and my comment is directed to the City Council, except for Mr. Camp. To be very honest with you, I was quite surprised to find out that the City Council chose to endorse any candidate. I don't care what candidate, any candidate. And I say that for two reasons. One, you almost have a sacred calling to represent your district. You represent not just your own opinion, you represent your district. And I can tell you that there are others that are going to be receiving votes from your district other than Mr. Camp. Second reason is, what happens by chance if somebody else happens to win besides Mr. Camp? Doesn't that put you as a city council in an adversarial position with them right off the bat? We don't need that, I don't think, in Murray. I think we need a collaborative, as Mr. Camp has mentioned, relationship. And so anyway, it's already done now, but I would hope that the next time this rolls around, that you really consider, is endorsing a candidate an appropriate thing to do? I don't think it is.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Greenhall. Are there any others who would like to speak this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll close our citizen comment and move to item number 7 on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda this evening consists of 10 appointments or reappointments to boards or commissions. I'll just read through them briefly. The reappointment of Larry Wilson to the Murray Board of Appeals, an at-large position. The reappointment of Scott Finlinson as a Murray hearing officer, an at-large position. The reappointment of Jim Harland as a Murray hearing officer, an at-large position. The confirmation of the mayor's reappointment of Eric Millay to the Murray Heritage Center Advisory Board, an at-large position. The confirmation of the mayor's appointment of Laurel Ann Shepard to the Murray History Advisory Board. And Mayor, I'll have you speak to that in just a moment. The reappointment of Wendy Parsons Baker to the Murray History Advisory Board. the confirmation of the mayor's reappointment of Rebecca Santa Cruz to the Murray History Advisory Board, the mayor's reappointment of Richard Hutchison to the Murray Personnel Advisory Board, the reappointment of Danny Meekum to the Murray Personnel Advisory Board, and the reappointment of Janice Evans to the Murray Shade Tree and Beautification Commission. And Mayor, all those were reappointments with the exception of Laurel Ann Shepherd. Would you like to take a moment and introduce
Yes, please.
Ms. Shepherd?
She's here and with us, so I'd like to ask her to stand, please. And, Laura, we really appreciate your willingness to serve the city in this calling, and I know that you understand how important it is at this time to be involved in this and everything. I wasn't able to be there for the interview process, but I understand you had a very pleasant interview with Janet Towers and Rhonda. It was, get the three of you together, I'm sure it was a fun experience for you. Laurel has a great deal of experience in the healthcare industry as a healthcare professional. You might wonder how that translates over into the history board, but she has overseen a great deal of staffing through the years in that, and a great deal of drawing up and organizing reports that were submitted in the healthcare industry, and so a lot of that experience will still work well with the history board, and I think you'll really enjoy working with Mary Ann Kirk. She's an amazing person to work with. She received her education from Weaver State University and also got her Bachelor's of Arts and Psychology and Human Relations from Westminster College. Is that correct? So, Council, I would like to ask for your consideration and confirmation of Laurel Ann Shepherd to the Murray History Advisory Board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Shepherd, for your willingness to serve. I'll take the consent agenda as one item.
Now make a motion we adopt the consent agenda as read.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Brass and second by Mr. Hales. Any discussion? Okay, Jennifer, will you call the roll?
Mr. Brass?
Aye.
Ms. Turner?
Aye.
Mr. Held?
Aye.
Mr. Naponsky?
Aye.
Mr. Camp?
Aye. Okay, thank you again. Okay, we will now move to our public hearings. Item number 8.1 will be public hearing number 1. And this is for us to consider an ordinance relating to land use, which amends the zoning map for property located at 1291 West Bullion Street, Murray, Utah, from A1 agriculture to R110 low-density single-family residential. We'll have a presentation by Tim Tingey.
Thank you, Council. This item was considered at the Planning Commission meeting with a public hearing that took place at that time on June 15th. They forwarded a recommendation to you, which I'll talk about in just a minute. Just a few pictures showing the site. This is an area up just off of Canal Street and Bullion. You see the property located right there. It's currently zoned agricultural or A1, and the proposal is to rezone it, as you've mentioned, to R110, which allows for single-family, primarily single-family homes on 10,000 square foot lots. It's about an acre in size. There was a public hearing that was in place. It is consistent with the general plan to have this property go to this zoning. You see that there are other areas in the vicinity based on this map that show that the area has R110 zoning. And so based on that, the Planning Commission recommended approval, and I'm here recommending approval of that again tonight.
Are there any questions for Mr. Tingey? Okay. Seeing none, then does the applicant wish to speak to this? Yes. Okay. You state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is George Halliday, 1356 Woodhaven Circle in Taylorsville, Utah. I bought the property back in the early 90s with the intention of building a home on there, and I had 2 sons and felt like I'm a 4th generation from Murray, and so I thought it'd be nice to come on home. I've always enjoyed Murray City, still have family here. And so, with that in mind, I had purchased the property actually from the Schiffmans, which is part of the Bodley family to the south of the property. And my intention was to develop that with 3 lots. Just as you see what the Perry property is, it would be somewhat of a mirror image. And at the time, that was doable. Matter of fact, I worked with Brother Perry in developing his 3rd lot. And the council, at the time was on board with that. It was a private lane. Now, years later, things have changed. And as I met with the engineers, Jared Hall, had informed me that, this isn't doable. Your plan isn't doable. We're not building on private lots. So I'm down a lot. And with his recommendation, with what's in place, he says the best you can do is a flag lot on there. And so that's what I've done. I'm going to have that engineered as a flag lot, losing obviously the benefit of the 3rd lot, but following the recommendation of the city planners and going forward with that. So with that, we needed to have a zoning change, and that's why we've started the process here. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Halliday. Any questions for Mr. Halliday? Okay. We'll go ahead and then open this up then for public input. We'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on this matter?
I'm Janae Christiansen. I live at 5815 South, 1290 West, just east of the property. And I brought up a few concerns at the last meeting that I still have as concerns. One of the concerns is the road safety there on Bullion. We live in the most dangerous stretch of that road. So we're going to have private lane, private lane, private lane, all right, huddled there together, and it's a dangerous situation. We've had our mailbox plowed in because people don't make the curve. A lot of them don't even notice that there's a curve right there. And I hope that you'll take into concern that situation. Also, I'm a little troubled by a flag lot going into that area. It's a really beautiful area. And somebody's going to have to pay a lot of money to come in there. They're going to have to pay the fee to buy the property per lot, which appears to be like $150,000. They're going to have to go in and remove lots of trees and bring in curb and gutter, and I just see that as a huge expense for somebody. So we're going to want some really nice, probably big homes in there, and it seems weird to put them in as a flag lot to me. I don't want Mr. Halliday not to be able to build a home there or whatever. We'd be happy to welcome him or somebody, but a flag lot just is weird to me. There's also some fire issues there. There are a lot of cottonwood trees, and when the cotton comes down, it's a fire hazard. And at one time, somebody at the Schiffman property, which actually was the King property at that time, threw down a cigarette, and that whole little section went up in flames. And we had neighbors running with hoses and things to help us put out the fire. Thank heavens when the cotton burned, the fire went out, but some safety stuff needs to be done in there where maybe some of those trees need to be removed for fire safety. I also worry about fire trucks being able to get in there and down these lanes and keep us safe that way. Thank you.
I didn't catch your name. Could you give me your name again?
Yeah, Janae Christiansen.
Janae Christiansen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Christensen. Are there any others who would like to speak? Seeing none, then I will go ahead and close the public comment period and ask the sponsor, Mr. Halliday, do you have any response or anything else you'd like to add?
I think a lot of the concerns will actually be cleared up with it being developed. The trees would be gone. which would be the fire hazards and things that maybe they're concerned about. But, you know, my intent is to put in a couple of nice lots, and you can see with an acre, there shouldn't be any problem with putting in some nice lots, and actually will improve and possibly even better the safety of the road. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the council? Just a comment that we are voting on the rezone, not any kind of a site plan approval or anything like that this evening, just a rezone to A1. So keep that in mind as we move forward with a motion. Oh, before we do that, was there anything else? Tim, was there anything else you wanted to add? Okay, thank you. Then I'll look for a motion.
Well, as it's consistent with the general plan, I will make a motion that we adopt the ordinance relating to land use that amends the zoning map for the property located at approximately 1291 West Bullion Street, Murray City, Utah, from A1 to R110.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Brass and a second by Ms. Turner. Any discussion on the motion? Jennifer, will call for a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'm going to vote nay.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Motion passes 4-1. We'll now move to public hearing number 2, item 8.2.1. This is to consider an ordinance amending section 17.64.090 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to fence height exceptions. Tim?
Again, this item went before the Planning Commission. Public hearing was held. There were notices provided as part of that process. They provided a recommendation to you on this based on that public hearing. And let me just outline a few elements of this. We talked about this in a committee of the whole meeting a few weeks ago as well. But there are, in the fence regulations that we have, there are some exceptions that are built into the ordinance, and the reasoning for those exceptions is when there are impacts to people's properties that would merit the need for a fence that has greater height than just a regular 6 foot high, or depending on the front or side setbacks, the minimum standards. Some of those include adjacency to arterial streets, very heavy traffic streets. There's others related to the type of uses on the site, particularly tennis courts and things such as that. And also there's other components related to acreage size, which merits, with larger lots, you can have an exception to go up a foot or two. So what this proposal does is two things. It standardizes that maximum height that is allowed to 8 feet. There was a component of the ordinance that allowed the Planning Commission to approve that up to 8 feet. This standardizes that element, that all of the exceptions include going up to the 8 feet. And then in addition to that, there was an additional component under G that talks about residential and non-residential properties adjacent to the Jordan and Salt Lake Canal right-of-way that we've had several public meetings on. This would allow for, once again, with the visibility of that trail, with the number of people that will be on that trail, there is an impact to adjacent properties, so this would allow for that exception to go up to 8 feet for property owners that abut that trail. That's the primary purpose of this request and this ordinance change. And so Planning Commission considered this, had some input at the meeting, and you have the ordinance, proposed ordinance in front of you. Staff is recommending approval. The Planning Commission recommended approval as well. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for
Mr. Chairman? If I may, what's the standard height now? 6 feet?
Typically 6 feet for rear yards, but front yards it's a lower height. It's 3 to 4 depending upon the type of fence.
I understand. All right, thank you.
But to clarify, that's changing the ordinance from a maximum height of 7 feet to 8 feet.
Yeah, just on the exceptions. Though, just on the
yeah.
exceptions. That 6 feet is standard for most areas. These exceptions are based on circumstances that are adjacent to certain residences.
Gotcha. Any other questions for Tim? Okay, we'll go ahead and open this up then for public comment. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to comment on this matter? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment then and bring it back to the council for consideration.
I'll move, let's see, where are we at? I'll move to adopt the ordinance amending section 17.64.090 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to fence height exceptions.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Turner and a second by Mr. Nakponsky. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Takes us to public hearing number 3, item 8.3.1 is to consider an ordinance amending section 17.80.120 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to the relocation of non-conforming monopoles or communication towers within the Murray City Center District Zone. Tim? It's your night.
Once again, it was a busy planning commission meeting on June 15th, but this item was considered with a public hearing on that night as well, and they provided a recommendation of approval of this proposal. The bottom line, let me just outline what it is. There are cell towers located in our community in a variety of places. We have them in place now. Some of them are legal non-conforming, meaning that they were allowed to go in place at a certain site, and then ordinances were changed at some time, and they weren't allowed to be there anymore, but they could stay because they have legal non-conforming status. But to relocate them into the area is an issue as well. And so in the Murray City Center District Ordinance, there's one cell tower that's in place, and there's a desire to look at a relocation of that. So in doing that, it meets intent of city purposes to try to mitigate impacts of these cell towers, move them to different sites, move them away from residential districts. And so this ordinance proposes some additional wording to allow for that. So specifically, it would include a conditional use permit for a relocation of a legal non-conforming cell tower. That monopole has to meet all the requirements of the current ordinance, and it also would be placed on a parcel that would be away from residential uses, at least 165 feet, and also include location on a parcel that has civic or non-residential uses such as schools, fire stations, or other elements. And that the monopole would be strategically located to mitigate impacts as much as possible. So based on that, Planning Commission recommended approval. We're recommending that as well. We feel like this is an important part of the code to allow us to relocate certain cell towers and hopefully mitigate impacts to adjacent residential areas as well as to the area in general. We're recommending approval.
Thank you, Tim. Are there any questions? Okay. Thank you. We'll go ahead and open this up for public comment. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to speak to this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing then and bring back to the council for action. I just want to comment that this item, as well as the one prior to it, were brought to the committee of the whole last meeting, so this is not new information. Just for the public's information, this is something that we have already reviewed, so that's probably why there's not a lot of questions. So bring it back for discussion and or action.
You want to make it? Okay, I'll make a motion that we amend section 17.80.120 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to the relocation of non-conforming monopoles, otherwise known as communication towers, within the Murray City District Zone, Center District Zone.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Nakponsky and a second by Mr. Hales. Any questions or discussion on the motion? Jennifer, will you call roll?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, we have no unfinished business this evening scheduled, so we'll move to item 10.1 under new business. This is to consider a resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city and Wasatch Front Regional Council for assistance through transportation and land use connection. Tim?
So Administrative and Development Services staff submitted an application, as you just stated, to Wasatch Front and received a grant of $75,000 with a match of $10,000 coming from the city, which we have budgeted in the Administrative and Development Services Professional Services line item. The purpose of this is to do a small area plan, market study, and design elements around the Central Track Station, Front Runner Station. We're excited about this because it gives us some funding to hire a consultant to go in and really analyze the market, analyze the issues, including the mix of uses related to commercial and residential, and also develop this small area plan that could eventually come back to you as an overlay district as part of our zoning if you feel it's something that you would want to adopt. So based on this, we're excited to have the grant. We have match dollars in place, and we're recommending approval of this interlocal agreement with Wasatch Front.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions? Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city and Wasatch Front Regional Council for assistance through transportation and land use connection.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Brass and second by Ms. Turner. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will you call for a vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. It's always good to be bringing money in. Okay, item 10.2 is to consider a resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city and UDOT for the I-15 widening project identified as SB 12300 South to SR 201 in Salt Lake County. Tim, it looks like you're yielding your seat to Doug. Doug?
Appreciate you giving me a chance. UDOT is planning to add a lane of travel on I-15 between 21st South and 123rd South with some other modifications at the intersection of I-215 and I-15. And as a result of that, a few of Murray City utilities will be affected by that widening: power, water, sewer, and storm drains. UDOT has hired a design build contractor and would like the city to enter into this agreement to allow their contractor to design and make modifications and construction of any of these utility modifications. All of this will be done with city oversight. We'll have the opportunity to review the plans to make sure they comply with our specifications. We'll have the ability to inspect them and make sure that they're installed properly. And so that's the agreement that you have before you tonight. It's an agreement between Murray City and UDOT for utility modifications related to the widening of I-15, and recommend that you approve this agreement.
Thank you, Doug. Any questions?
No, it was something we had just discussed at the Committee of the Whole, and you answered our questions at that time very well, Doug, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no others, I will move to approve the resolution approving an interlocal cooperation agreement between the city and Utah Department of Transportation for the I-15 highway widening project identified as SB 12300 South to SR 201 in Salt Lake County.
I'll second that.
Would you repeat that motion? No, I'm just kidding.
You're kidding.
We have a motion by Ms. Turner and a second by Mr. Hales. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. Call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Item 11 on the agenda is the report of the mayor. Mayor Iyer, welcome.
Thank you. Well, I told some very important people tonight that the meeting would be over by 7:30, so I'm going to live up to my word here, I think. This first item will assuage an awful lot of phone calls that we've gotten in the mayor's office in the last couple of 3 weeks, and that's when is the farmer's market going to open? And the farmer's market opened last weekend. It'll run every Friday and Saturday until the last weekend in October. And next thing is the newly appointed budget that we're now operating under is now available on our website for all the residents to see. It's 126 pages long in case you're up at night, don't have much to do. And but it's available also to all the council members and to the department heads. They have a copy in their email as well. There's going to be a major improvement on Vine Street, most of you are aware of. It's such a large project that it's done in 2 phases. And on August the 16th, there will be an informational type meeting for all the residents who are interested in this Vine Street Corridor Improvement Project. The first phase on Vine Street will be on Vine Street from 900 East to 1300 East. And the second phase will then go from 1300 East all the way to Van Winkle, with widening and curb and gutter and all the other improvements that they deserve over in that area. And then for many of us, we like to see this come around every year, and that's the annual Family Health and Safety Fair held over in the park. That'll be on August the 21st from 6 until 9 o'clock. And there's events for everybody. All age ranges have events over there at that Family Health and Safety Fair. And then the last item, I just want to let everybody know that early voting is available here at the City Hall from 11 a.m. until 7 p.m. on the next 2 Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And so that's all I have for tonight, unless there's any questions of the mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions of the mayor? Okay, seeing
Blair,
none.
can I make a comment, not to the mayor, but about something else?
Sure, go ahead.
Just want to thank Chief Rodriguez and Chief Burnett and your police officers and your firemen and women and paramedics. I don't remember much, but I'm sitting up, which is a miracle. And just want to say thank you from the heart. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. With that, we'll be adjourned.